Are you looking for a billing company that can increase your revenue, effectively manage your credentialing, deliver the right software, and provide guidance in navigating the minefield of compliance? MediStar has been providing the right answers for hospitals and physicians for over 13 years. We go the extra mile by paying attention to the details and focusing on aggressive follow-up. Recognized for 4 straight years by Inc. magazine, our professionals can help you attain your revenue cycle goals while helping to ensure that your work is done in a compliant manner. Call one of our experts toll-free at 888-423-8080. That's 888-423-8080. Or visit us at www.medistarbilling.com.
And we're back here on the Healthcare Business Network. I'm here with our guest expert today, Dennis Melamed. Dennis is an expert in the area of privacy, security. He keeps tabs on what's going on in our industry regarding HIPAA, high-tech violations, breach, and he's reviewing a lot of these figures with us today. I just wanted to let all of you know, too, that you could, of course, find us at www.hbnradioshow.com. That's hbnradioshow.com. And you can also find us on Facebook at the Healthcare Business Network Radio Show fan page. You can find us and follow us on Twitter at HealthBizNet. That's Health, B-I-Z-N-E-T, one word. You can also find us on LinkedIn at the Healthcare Business Network Radio Show group and on YouTube, or the Healthcare Business Network channel. So there are many points that you could listen to our radio show on, and I'm sure you'll find out a lot of interesting information in terms of your conduct of medical practices. So, Dennis, getting back here on this issue about small breach and high breach cases, I know the line between the two, I believe, is 500. If you could go into a little bit of depth about that and tell us, why is 500 so important? Why is that number so important?
Under the law, if you have a breach that is determined to have affected 500 or more patients, you have to report it in an expeditious manner promptly to the Office for Civil Rights. A couple of things go on there. Once you've done that, you have to mitigate and correct. In other words, you have to recognize you have a problem, stop it, fix it, and then alert and then tell people that who may have been affected that this has gone on and offer them some sort of corrective action. However, that tends to, everyone's been really concerned about that ending up on the government's website of shame, if you will. But frankly, the Office for Civil Rights is expecting that will be the last place that it will show up, and that local media find these things of great interest, and word should be getting along to the media well before OCR posts. And so there's been some concern. There is a lot of concern over the cost, who's responsible, because of the business associate relationships and the complexity of healthcare and however, the world of subcontractors and all of that. But they're not all necessarily, multi-million dollar things. But the thing that's, to me, has been the more interesting, and in the long term, maybe the more disconcerting, or I don't want to say disruptive, but something that should give everyone pause, are the ones under 500. And while I told you we had about 225 events in the first year or so of it, we've had another 9,500 that were reported to the Department of Health and Human Services of smaller breaches. Now, this
meaning affecting under 500 patients.
Affecting under 500.
Right.
Now, there's been some experience with that. We're not, starting to creep out. We're starting to see some of what's going on here. Couple of things. One, we're coming up March 1st. I think everyone's gonna have to report their log of smaller breaches. The regulation only requires organizations to report these annually. So we're coming up on the deadline now. But second, a lot of organizations are reporting them as they come along, or in quarterly or things like that. And they have run the gamut. You still have to do the correction. You still have to mitigate. You still have to notify the patient and perhaps offer whatever remedies there are available, typically credit monitoring, that kind of thing. So you still have to do that. But the other thing that's interesting is a breach sometimes, and this is why I want to emphasize the point, that a breach is not the same thing as a HIPAA privacy violation or a HIPAA security violation. And I should add that most of the breaches that we've seen so far have been HIPAA security violations. Number one reason for a breach, theft of laptops.
So it doesn't mean there's been a privacy breach, but it means it was a security failure.
Well, a security failure is likely to lead to a
privacy breach. Correct.
I mean, in fact, the privacy rule itself has a mini security rule in it, but you have no privacy, or actually, I like to use the term confidentiality if you don't have security. So what has happened? So organizations have self-reported, because they have to, at least on an annual basis, to the Office for Civil Rights. So then what happens then is OCR then looks at them and parcels them out to the various regions. And what we've seen so far is we've seen a spike in actual complaints, HIPAA privacy complaints last year, because organizations were self-reporting, went to headquarters at OCR, and then went back out to the region. So this clearly fell within the HIPAA jurisdiction, but that was a HIPAA violation. But we're now talking about a different law, a different set of regulations called a breach regulation. So what's happened so far, what we're seeing is that a privacy complaint will be lodged by OCR when under some circumstances, when they see something that rises to a level of seriousness in a breach situation. And what we've seen so far in that regard is, and again, we're only guessing now in some fashion, somewhat speculating, but what we're seeing so far now is if your breach that you've reported on an annual basis affected less than 500, but involved something like a flash drive or a laptop or something like that, it seems that the regional offices who are going out and investigating these events are taking the position of but for the grace of God went you that it wasn't over 500, and they become full-fledged privacy complaints and investigations, and covered entities, healthcare providers, and health insurers and clearinghouses have had to take some very significant actions to show that they will have corrected the problem and have notified the people who have been affected. So it can be a pretty big deal. The major difference really is having to notify the media and make a public announcement that this has happened.
My favorite example is the doctor's office that I guess they had 10 pages of notes, 1 page per each patient, and they were supposed to fax it to a particular phone number, and by mistake they faxed it to the wrong place. Is this going to lead to the OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, coming in?
Well, it may lead to a report, but it's unlikely to result in any action. I mean, you have to be realistic about this. OCR has not been, nor was ever intended to be, really aggressive. It would shut down the industry. And in fact, in my mind, the HIPAA privacy rule may have not been aimed at the entities, the healthcare entities that everybody was really concerned about. But that's another discussion for another day.
Right.
OCR has taken the position, even before we had the breach notification rules under the HIPAA privacy rule, that things aren't perfect, and that they're looking for reasonable activities. So you send an EOB to the wrong place, something happens here, something stray happens. It's not a violation. That's a privacy violation per se, and they're not going to go after you. You keep having those things, though. You keep having problems in your mailroom, and you don't do anything about it. You just live with it. Then we've raised a different set of issues. And what they're looking for is your operation under control? Are you taking care of your data? Things are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen. But are you under control? And if you continually are sending data to the wrong fax, or you're emailing it to the wrong person, or something like that, then that raises a whole set of other issues. Then something happens every once in a while, in a blue moon, because you've had a hiccup in the system.
Right. Dennis, we're going to take a quick break here from our friends at the Chester Company. This is Ron Nyman here on the Healthcare Business Network. We'll be back in a minute.